Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome back to a game of StarCraft 2. Today we have two fantastic players. In the bottom right, spawning us our yellow Zerg player playing for the Guangdong Freaks. It's going to be soO. And in the top right, as our red Terran player playing for Team Liquid, it is Clem. An interesting match here, for a couple of reasons. One, Clem has recently become a lot better again in the Terran versus Zerg matchup. Kind of reminded me of when he initially came up in like 2020 to 2021. His TVC was absolutely unbeatable, and lately it kind of has been like that again. Although I do have to add that whenever Clem is playing on a different server, that is Europe, or on a server where he isn't currently at, he always just feels a little bit worse. He feels his style, his micro-centric style, seems to do very well on low ping. And that makes sense, of course. You know, he's used to sniping banelings in the last couple of seconds. He's used to picking up in the last second as well. His control overall is just so based on having low ping that whenever he gets slightly higher ping, he always struggles. And we've seen that in the past against people like Rogue, Dark. I want to say even against Ragnarok, I've seen him struggle a little bit when he was in absolute tip-top shape, taking out every single European Zerg player. And that could of course be a style difference as well between the Europeans and the Koreans, but whenever I spoke with Clem, he always seemed extremely bothered by the ping, more so than a lot of other players. And that's not weird. There are just some people that are really bothered by ping. I used to always have it as well when I were to play against a Zerg player specifically, and because I'm a big fan of playing oracles against Zerg, so you want to build your oracles, but the way that oracles are controlled on ping, like the little bit of delay in there makes the stutter stepping so extremely difficult, and it really messed with my brain so much that whenever I were to play on like a server with ping higher than 100, 110, it would just piss me off already, even if I hadn't used an oracle yet, or even if I weren't going to use an oracle. It just pissed me off that I couldn't use oracles because of the stupid ping. And it kind of gets in your head a little bit as well at that point. So nowadays I don't feel too bad anymore about ping. You kind of just accept that that's life, you know, and your oracle micro is a bit worse, your oracle micro is a bit worse. I guess that comes with age a little bit as well. You become slower anyway, so it's only... if the worst thing is going to be your oracle not being microed that well, then, you know, that's all okay. It was a good day in the office anyway. Alright, let's take a look at this game. We have a triple CC opener coming out of Clem, really the golden standard of Clem build orders. He loves this so much. He has been playing this for absolutely years as well. He has a lot of different little variations he can go in from here. Sometimes we see that fast second barracks come down, but this feels more like a starport into that, also loved Banshee that he builds. Now the Banshee provides a lot of value against roach openers, it provides value against roaches in the mid game, it's good against Ling run bys, and of course it's a unit that can also just deal damage very quickly in the early stage, or the later stages of the early game, I should say. We'll have to wait and see how Clem is actually going to use it though. Probably quite aggressive with the Banshees. Sometimes even tries to go for Hellion run by at the same time as well. Of course, speed is one of his main features. This map, by the way, Dragon Scales with some. Let's take a look at this map. Some interesting positions in the middle. There's some line of sight blockers. There's some rocks over here where a tank possibly could sit. 4 or 5 bases are pretty holdable though. I'm not too worried about that here. You could look tank position over here. Is that doesn't really have potential? Does it? Nah. I think this is a fine defensive map for Zerg, honestly. Seems a little bit harder for Terran, especially initially. There's just a lot of run by potential. Fort base seems difficult to hold as well. But the map at the same time also is quite short. Oh, it's not actually going to be Banshees, but it's going to be a Raven instead. This is cool. I really like Raven build orders, and it's good to see some people use them. Clem has been very fond of those for a long time. Now, the one thing that he usually changes when he plays Raven openers is that rather than just going up to 8 Hellions, he loves going up to these higher Hellion counts. Really, really quite high Hellion counts. And I'm talking 10, sometimes even 12, 14 Hellions to really put on the pressure. And of course, that's pretty doable as well with these Hellions and with the Raven, because you can see the creep, so you can just shoot creep, you can fight queens a lot easier. Doesn't seem that is going to be the case this time around. After 8 Hellions, he's already moving over with that factory to throw down the reactor for for one of these barracks, and then the factory is going to most likely move on to the stack lab. As these Hellions are moving in right now, starting to fight these Queens. Auto turret is going to be dropped down, but the Raven is taking a lot of damage here and is going to end up falling. 3 Queens might end up dying. No, one more transfuse. Good defense here out of soO, honestly. Really do like that. More Link streaming in as well as Reaper and 2 more Hellions fall. I mean, what's the total here? 2 Hellions and a Raven down versus 3 Queens. I actually prefer that for soO than I do for Clem. Yes, losing Queens is bad. It delays your creep spread. You don't have transfuses to deal with a Marine drop in the mid game. But at the same time, a Raven is such an expensive investment. And it's an investment that is just going to be helping you out. You know, there's really a use for the Raven in every single part of the game. It saves you a lot of money that you don't have to spend on scans. I mean, every single time you want to scan in the early game, you can just have your Raven there instead. And it does the exact same thing. That's another 225 minerals that you just save, which is obviously fantastic. Then you also have the anti-armor missile. If we're thinking of doing like a big 1-1 or a big 2-2 push, that anti-armor missile provides huge value, which is just great. And in the late game, you can continue using those anti-armor missiles. And also, if you keep it alive, it can be used as a spotter for burrowed units, whether that be burrowed banelings or burrowed infestors, doesn't really matter that much. In bad defensive situations, you can throw down auto turrets as well. As long as you keep that Raven alive, life generally is just going to be good. And I'm always confused when Terrans are so aggressive with that Raven. It really does feel like a unit that, you know, it ages well. It's more like whiskey than it is like yogurt. I'll just put it like that. And trust me, if you leave a carton of yogurt in your fridge for 18 years, it's not quite as good as the whiskey that you left in the barrel for 18 years. At least that's a theory I have. I've never actually personally done it with yogurt. Maybe you get something very special out of it. I believe it's just gonna look a little bit green. And it might start fighting back if you try to eat it. Just because it's alive now. Okay, Marines are moving in. And we'll start taking out these crude tumors. This could have been free, Clem. This could have been... If only you kept your Raven alive. Unbelievable. Yeah, Fort CC is on the way. As we have 2 more mines joining... Oh, no, they're not joining up at all. They're going for a double mine drop. Ooh. Do we like that? Maybe. I'm not so sure yet. Misses the 2 back tumors. We'll need to take those out as well, because otherwise you're not really denying the creep spread. At least not... You always want to kill the furthest point, right? It's somewhat important. Here comes a double mine drop. 1 mine... Oh, wow. I didn't think he was going to use both mines there in the same location. I thought he was going to spread them out across bases, but I don't completely mind this. Mind. Never mind. Never mind. There's a lot of Marines out here on the map. 2 medevacs as well. A sensor tower will spot these mutas coming in, and the turret gets built immediately. There's just not that many units. It feels like Clem was completely caught off guard by this little move here. Going to lose a bunch of these SCVs for free. And at the same time, well, I mean, these might... This is not in range, mate. It's a huge cliff between this. Like a bunch of rocks, and then you can shoot over that. Mine is going to get spotted here by the Muta. Oh my god, are you joking? The Muta dragging in the mine. That guy's an imposter for sure. These 2 bad boys will manage to actually get some drone kills as well. And also force the Mutalisk back, which is probably the biggest thing of this entire interaction. Is the fact that Clem now has more time to prepare for the Mutalisk. He is getting his 2-2 already. He's going to be up in upgrades in a massive way. Drilling Claws is coming in for soO. Problem for soO is that his creep spread is just kind of garbage here. Like, he has no creep in the middle whatsoever. He isn't on the map with his Mutalisk. His Mutalisk count's only at 11 as well. I feel like 9 minutes in, it should have been a little bit higher, but he hasn't even really mined from these fort base gases yet. Like, the 7th and 8th gases have been so late here that continuous Mutalisk production feels kind of risky. There's a lot of banelings, which indicates that soO either believed an attack was coming, or that soO wants to attack with this, but... doesn't even have 1-1 yet. He does have the centrifugal hook, so the baneling speed is there, but I don't know. I just don't know. Here come a lot of the mines. Will be taken out before the fight truly starts. That is a pretty big hit there on the bottom side, as this fight is actually going soO's way a little more than I had expected. Perhaps something to do with the fact that Clem had about 30 supply here on the bottom side of the map, not really participating. soO is going to really push the issue here though, and I'm not a huge fan of that right next to a planetary. Planetary, of course, dealing a lot of damage against these banelings, against these lings, which means that the only thing left to shoot are these mutas. There's a crap ton of cash in the bank though for soO. So, despite not really winning that fight, money-wise, he's still looking pretty tight. The larva is just an issue here for some reason. He just isn't injecting very well. And I've noticed this before in other games as well, that the injects just sometimes don't quite line up for soO for some reason. I mean, if you're playing Mutaling Bane, you really should be capable of spending your money, and he just is not capable of spending his money. Right now he's morphing in 20 banelings, and hasn't started 2-2 yet either. Still 800 minerals in the bank here. Oh, Muta's trying to take out these marines that aren't high enough in number. So their friends had to come and help them out. There is 16 Mutalisks out. 16 mutas. How many have we lost so far? We've lost 6 mutas. That means we should have been at 22-ish. Of course, you're always going to lose a couple of mutas. That's just how life works usually. Slightly overstimmed army here out of Clem. 2 medevacs completely empty. 2 medevacs trying to heal this up. This is off creep. There's not that many mines, so you'll still need to micro back a decent chunk here if you're Clem. I'm not entirely sure if I like this fight because of that lack of mine. All of these fights, they just tend to go the Zerg way. Even if they're off creep. If there's just no mine and you're working with 30-40 banelings, yeah, majority of the time it's just going to be completely fine here for the Zerg player. Sensor tower is going to get sniped here as well. It's an expensive structure. I'm happy to see that. Let's soon manage to take that out. As Clem is now starting production of his first Thors, and really just very slowly pumping out these mines. There is a reactor here, but that mine count isn't high. It isn't high at all. The 5th base, however, is on the way already, which is nice. I wouldn't mind if Clem just kind of relaxes here for a second and says, hey, let's just gather all our forces, set up a drop towards the right side, and then get a big army together, start pushing out. The medevac count is a little bit low. He hasn't started 3-3 yet, despite 2-2 being done for a very long time already. This planetary is in trouble, and 7 SCVs will end up going down. The planetary morph is going to get cancelled as well, but so will all of these Lynx lives. They are going to get cancelled real quick here. This drop will end up falling, but might be capable of taking out 1 or 2 more Mutalisks. 1 Muta went down, 2nd Muta will... Whoop, I think that was literally the last shot of that Marine, but more action happening as these banelings are trying to connect with a lot of the SCVs, and well, basically every single SCV is going to end up dying. At the same time, Clem is moving in. We're going into a bit of a base trade scenario here. Mines growing forward. Can't really imagine this army walking in here and killing this base though. So we're moving into a scenario right now where Clem has 6 command centers and 60 workers. And all of these bases are so spread out that I almost wish, yeah, that he doesn't take that far left side base. Just morph this into an orbital for now. Give a small boost to your eco rather than spreading yourself so thin with another base that you can't even really saturate. Very good decision making. That is usually not that easy to make. Like, it often feels like, hey, there's almost no creep. I can just take that 6th base. But I respect this call a lot. Just moving this back. He doesn't even have to morph it into an orbital, but just kind of keep a command center in the bank. That's some classic Terrans move. Okay, he's gonna morph it into an orbital. I like that the most, but also could have kept it. Maybe in some world he even could have added a planetary over here to kind of, you know, bolster the defenses of this base. Not enough turrets here to defend against the Mutalisks. Mutalisks do have +2, I believe. Yeah, so these Mutas are actually quite punchy here. They can deal some damage for sure. These banelings also could have dealt some damage, but only if Clem's entire army wasn't here. That definitely didn't help. 3-3 just now starting for Clem. He's going to be pretty upset that he forgot that, because it would have led to a massive upgrade lead over his opponent. So just now is starting his +3 armor and +3 melee attack. Hasn't even started yet. Oh, part of the fight was happening off screen. My apologies there. Did not quite think there was going to be that many Marauders there in the middle. Feels like Clem is winning this fight though, as he just managed to kill a lot more than his opponent did. Look at that, 9 kills on that 1 Widow Mine. I think there was a bunch of Banes in there as well. Don't think that was pure Ling. Adrenal Gland's about to finish up. That's definitely going to help in these engagements. Usually the more Marauders there are in a composition, the more important Links become again. Links are relatively bad against high Marine counts, because you want a lot of Banelings against that. But once Marauders start, you know, being mixed in a lot, Links actually perform pretty okay against Marauders. Generally, that can be said for sure. Also, supply-wise, it works quite well. Right? Marauder, of course, 2 supply. So you just can get a lot of Links to fight one Marauder, supply efficiency-wise. Marauders just don't attack that fast, so it takes a while to kill all these Links. Now, soO is trying to rotate across the map, and he's gonna stick with this, with just this Ling Bane style, Ling Bane Muta style, while being on very, not even that high eco. I was gonna say on very high eco, but he only has 80 workers. He kind of has low eco. He is on Ling Bane. He needs to go for some aggressive rotations here. I think this top right side base or this fourth base over here, these should be the targets. The moment you can push back this little attack that Clem is going for, slightly overstimmed here, only 2 medevacs. That is a huge error. Every single Thor is going to get taken out, but at the same time a lot of Banelings disappeared in that fight, so perhaps not completely ideal. Mutalisk tried to find some kills here. Will manage to get this command center down. There's 4 Marines, which honestly could be taken out as well. Don't think that would be the biggest issue here. Mutalisk coming back right now will be capable of taking out this medevac. Another medevac will go down, and that means that the total of medevacs will be at 2 right now. It's literally 2 medevacs, and those are these 2 medevacs. They are dealing some damage. They're forcing a big portion of these units back, but over here, well, a lot of bad stuff is happening for Clem as well, down to 150 supply right now against the 170 of soO. An absolutely wild game of Terran versus Zerg, in which it felt like Clem kind of had it after that fight in the middle, where soO was just down 30-40 supply, but soO taking a very, very good engagement, taking out 15 SCVs, still mining on that bottom left as well, and once again retaking this 6th-2 at the same time. We're gonna go in for another attack here, it feels like. There's no Thors in this composition. Mine hits are pretty darn decent. Oh yeah, none of these Banes are getting the connections that they want, and Clem once again with a very solid defensive fight. It feels like every single time that soO gets ahead, he tries to throw the game by attacking into a base where there's just a good defensive setup, rather than finding a weak spot or even trying to burst open a planetary. It seems like he's always just so keen on throwing his entire army into an orbital command position, but sometimes a position with an orbital command is actually better defended than a planetary. Like, look at this planetary, yes. Oh, actually has a bunch of turrets. But if you just throw in 22, 23 Banes in there, the planetary is going to fall. And you add in some Links, you're going to have a good time, trust me on that. What is this going to be? Another fight off creep, because, well, really there's not that much creep. There is still 17 Mutalisks. We don't have an Ultra Cavern yet here, I think. No, we don't even have an Ultra Cavern started, which is kind of painful. And you'd want to say maybe a good unit to have in this phase of the game would maybe force Clem to build a couple of Ghosts as well. The mine count is back up to 11 right now. Doesn't really show in this fight as there's only 2 mines over here. 2 more coming in. Thor in the far back will be capable of kind of discouraging these Mutas from diving too deep on top of these Marines. And soO felt like he perhaps dived a little bit too deep there with his Links and Banelings, as he ended up losing a whole bunch. Vehicle, oh my god, this is the first vehicle weapon. That's kind of uncommon against Mutalisk. Because against Mutalisk, the Thor is such a useful tool to have, is that the moment you realize it's Muta, you're going to start your vehicle weapons. You get to like +2, +3. It's absolutely massive with that splash damage that it has, of course. Just increasing that damage on the Mutalisk, the damage output. Nicely spread out with the way that the Thor attacks. Now 6 base is going to be taken for Clem. In the moment this one gets established, I think soO is going to be in a world of trouble. Yeah, 2 of these Mutas are going to end up falling. We have Stimmed Marines and Marauders moving forward as well. I personally really like this for Clem. 113 army supply. Yes, he only has 71 workers, but these bases are pretty much secure on the left side. And well, this attack, once again, it's very deep on creep, which feels a little bit risky in some way. The moment the mines disappear, it feels like the Ling Bane might actually be capable of connecting with a lot of the bio here. Thor is going to be left behind. Well, the leftover bio is still kiting back, so I think this is just going to be fine here for Clem. All the Thors do end up falling, and the creep is actually pushing up pretty far once again here towards the top side of the map. But soO hasn't started his own 6th base yet. He's being severely outmined right now by Clem with the 3600 mineral income against a mere 3k here for soO. soO hasn't really added onto the Mutalisk count either in a very long time right now. He's just bleeding out Muta after Muta, but can't really rebuild it because he needs to focus all of his attention, all of his resources into the Link Bane that he's constructing right now. Yeah, I think soO is just pretty dead at this point, honestly. There's mines absolutely everywhere. There's a lot of bio. This is a good flank though, but once again, mines being spread very evenly. And Clem will need to kite back. This storm will be forced to pick up. Where's the rest of Clem's army, actually? It's all in mines. Oh no, you can't be serious. It's all in mines and medevacs. There's really no bio whatsoever. soO is going to move in right now. What a turnaround. What an insane comeback if this actually ends up happening. soO is moving in. This mine's going to get a good connection. The second mine's going to get a pretty decent connection as well. Those 4 or 5 links are in the end. Mutas are trying to take out all of the anti-air, but I don't think it's quite going to be... Oh my god. The Overseer drag though on top of these Marines, maybe it's going to be good enough. This got really close here for a second, and if this money was actually spent properly, it feels like that maybe soO would have had a chance of killing his opponent here. Now this base is being taken out, or at least the SCVs are being taken out. Turret is being blasted as well. Links coming in here with the help of these Mutas should be capable of at least fighting some of these Marines. Another Thor is coming out. That means that the end of the reign of the Muta is here. More and more Marines streaming in as well. The income for Clem just a little bit too good. Oh my god. So many mines here as well. I guess that's where a lot of the supply went. Just random mines spread across the map. There's no Overseer with this army, but 12 more workers will end up falling. What's the orbital count though? Yeah, 6 orbitals. If this was 3 orbitals, it might be a different story. Where like 81, 71, you know, in the worker count it might work, but if there's 6 orbitals, you're always going to have 3-4 mules mining, or at least most of the time. Yeah, look at that, 3 mules just dropping down. So you'll always be even, at least when it comes to that income. And the fact that Clem already has a 6th base is just a huge thing. Clem once again being a little bit over aggressive, perhaps fighting without any real mine support there, and with a lot of supply still being in production in those barracks. Army supply really favorable right now though for our red Terran player. As the Frenchie, yeah, I mean, he's doing 8 more SCVs actually. soO is really good at taking these fights where it feels like he's completely dead. And then with some mine drags or with some other plays, actually manages to make some pretty cool, you know, some pretty cool things happen. It got really close up here. I really believe if that initial mine shot doesn't hit like 15, 16 links. I'm not saying that soO can camp the production, but it gets pretty close there. Like, you have a significant force of links at that point, where you can really do stuff. And at the same time, like if soO would have managed to really just spend his army before that moment, he could have had a lot more links as well. And maybe camping a production is completely viable at that point. At this point, it definitely isn't anymore. Clem just has so many units. He's completely maxed. 130 army supply. Look at the spread on this mine. Beautiful stuff. Marines, Marauders, Thor staying alive. GG gets called. Clem wins the game here on Dragon Skills. Really want to go back to that moment for a second though. That was mighty interesting. And what was it? Something along these lines. 20? 20? Yeah, I think 20 feels about correct. Look at that. Moving in, moving in. So, is this the mine that I was thinking about? I think so, right? How many kills is it got? 16 kills. Yeah. Imagine you don't get the 16 kills here. Then this is double the amount of links. I think these Mutas can probably... I don't think they can quite one-shot this. If this one gets 2 more, 16 more links. I really think something is possible here, really. These ones in him properly as well. I can see it happen. There's a lot of barracks though. But I mean, there's also more units coming in for soO. It's hard to say, but I mean, the 1300 minerals definitely aren't helping. That's what, like 28 sets of links. There's like 50 more links or so. A little bit more even. Which is kind of crazy. Like 56 links. Yeah. Alright. Well, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and bye bye.